Jackson, Chairman. This meeting is being interpreted live in Spanish. To listen to the Spanish interpretation, please call 508-924-5155. Once again, the number is 508-924-5155. Please focus your attention on the screen for the Spanish version.
Hay una línea telefónica simultánea disponible para las personas que desean escuchar la reunión de la Junta en español. Si desea escuchar la reunión en español, llame al 508-924-5155.
Thank you. For anyone unable to join us live, this meeting is being recorded and available for later viewing on PGCPS YouTube channel. Lastly, for recording purposes, the chairman reminds all board members to ensure that their microphones are turned on when speaking. Student board member Sidney Mosley, please lead us in board prayer.
Father, as thou you are in heaven, I hope that you can take us through this board meeting. Keep us blessed as we are trying to persevere. Please help us get through. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Johnson, please call the roll.
Dr. Anderful? Present. Ms. Boozer Strother?
Present.
Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Goins McCants?
Present.
Mrs. Jackson Saunders?
Present.
Mr. Mosley?
Present.
Dr. Moss?
Present.
Mrs. Olivo?
Present.
And Mr. Jackson?
Here.
There are 9 present.
Thank you. A quorum is present. If there is no objection to the 2027, Dr. Moss?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the agenda to reflect a new business item that would include a review of the Chipmunk app contract.
August 27, 2026 meeting will be adopted. Meeting agenda is adopted. Thank you. Moving to the approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the June 25th, 2026 board closed session meeting summary? June 25th, 2026 board business meeting minutes. July 9th, 2026 board closed session meeting summary. July 9th, 2026 special board business meeting minutes. August 20th, 2026 board closed session meeting summary. August 20th, 2026 board work session meeting minutes. There being no corrections, the meeting minutes are approved. The chairman recognizes Dr. Joseph for the PGCPS Spotlight title, PGCPS Back to School.
Thank you, Board Chair Jackson. We're truly looking forward to the school year. Now, my team and I have been visiting schools over the past few days, and it's been inspiring to see the brilliance of our students, our educators, and our staff firsthand. In the first video you're about to see, we highlight our Professional Educators Induction Program, and we welcome our first-year teachers as they begin their journey with Prince George's County Public Schools. And the second, we capture the excitement, energy, and joy of the first day of school across our schools. Take a look.
Welcome today to PEEP. Thank you for choosing PGCPS. You will see soon that you have chosen the best.
PEEP is like the best. It's 3 days of professional educator induction program for our novice educators.
You are coming into a school system that is challenging you to do whatever it takes to make sure every child in front of you gets excellence every day in every classroom.
It was great, being around fellow educators today, kind of getting to meet new faces. Met a few teachers who are going to be in my school as well. And also, getting introduced to the leadership team from the superintendent, and everyone else. Got a chance to hear their voice, see their vision.
I always lead with what is in the best interest of our students and our families. That is my why. So as you show up every day, even though you may be having a bad day, when you walk in the classroom, remember your why.
I wanted to work somewhere that felt familiar, where I could make an impact on people who were like me. And I know growing up how many other friends of mine who grew up with me needed a teacher like me, and like a lot of us have grown up to be. So we just wanted to come back and give it forward.
One person really can make a difference. And this year, you all get to be that person. Some of you have dreamed about this day for as long as you can remember. Some of you are coming to education after a completely different career. And some of you are probably wondering what you just got yourself into. But you're all about to become an important person in the life of a child you haven't met yet.
I feel like PEEP has been a motivator. Like, I was very excited. They had hit some very important points. I felt encouraged. I feel like I made the right decision, the right choice.
You have chosen a career that will put you to the test, but as you grow throughout your career, you will be better than the rest. Influencing lives is what you will do. Be of good cheer for them and for you.
Yeah, PGCPS, welcome back. This is going to be an absolutely amazing year. I can't wait for you to come back to school and do everything you can do to live out your wildest dreams. So let this be one of the best years ever.
I'm absolutely elated to go back to school. My first day of school. Everybody should be excited to be back in the classrooms and get a whole lot of learning back on this school year. I will be attending Bowie High School, and I hope to see you guys in class, and make sure, especially for class 2027, that we're doing great in our school year.
Well, the first day of school is always so exciting. It's a chance to start a new school year. The kids are excited to come meet their new teachers, and everything is shiny and new. Everybody has their new supplies. So it's always exciting, but this year is especially exciting because we have not just brand new pencils and crayons, we have a brand new school.
I am extremely excited. The students are walking in calm. Some of them are nervous. Can't wait to see the kiddos get together, learn their friends, meet their teachers. It's a warm, crisp first day of school, and I'm super duper excited.
We are so excited for the brand new 26-27 school year. We're excited about the endless possibilities of what we will do with our students this year. We are so excited to partner with our families and welcome our students back to PGCPS while we are forward by design. We are going to see student achievement, we're going to work on our strategic priorities, and we're going to achieve student growth.
My message is be active, be engaged, and we're going to have a fantastic year.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Does that conclude your message? Alrighty.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I do want to take the privilege to acknowledge any of our elected officials and dignitaries in the room today. Would you please stand? Let's see, Senator Alonzo Washington, former school board member Edward Burrows, and County Council board member. Moving on to the chairman recognizes board member Olivo for the screen time resolution.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. Thank you, colleagues, for your consideration of my Board of Education resolution to study technology use and screen time in schools. I spent some time today looking back at the timeline of this issue, and it's been pretty quick. The PG Parents for Smart Tech Use group was formed in May of 2026. They met with our Chief Information Officer, Dr. Andrew Zuckerman, on June 11th. That same evening is when parents first started testifying to the Board of Education on the amount and use of screen times in our public schools. On July 31st, Senator Alonzo Washington organized a highly informative and very well-attended community meeting on screen time in our public schools. And then on October 17th, Dr. Zuckerman sent a memo to all PGCPS staff implementing the immediate changes, which include removing YouTube access for all elementary age students, restricting the use of Chromebooks and screens during unstructured times, such as lunch, recess, and transitions, and then also indicating that this would be a phased approach and a baseline study year. The purpose of the resolution in front of you today is to formally endorse these changes that have been made immediately for this school year, and to direct the superintendent to conduct a comprehensive study of the student instructional technology during this first half of the school year, to include recommendations and policy considerations for the board to implement fully for the 2027-2028 school year. I will still work closely with our parents and elected official leadership to draft a memo to the superintendent outlining the scope for this study and what we expect to be reported back to the board early in the second semester. It is my intention to focus our second semester work on specific policy recommendations, again, that we can implement for the 2027-28 school year. And I really want to commend our parents and elected leaders for their incredible work to lay the foundation, provide the research and personal stories which support the changes that, again, very quickly have already been implemented and our commitment to this work. And Senator Alonzo Washington is here also to speak on this resolution. And so, Senator, I'd like to recognize you now, please.
Hello. Hello, is that on?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. For the record, Senator Alonzo Washington here to speak on this resolution. I want to thank Mr. Chairman for having me. I want to thank the Vice Chair for inviting me here to speak on this resolution, and thank Amy Olivo for your hard work and dedication on this. I want to address our superintendent. Congratulations on your new role. Very happy to have you here in Prince George's County. I will say that, I remember you coming to Annapolis to complain about one of my bills. I would just say that I'm here to return that favor. All right. But in all seriousness, thank you, and thank you all. And, I would just say with the issue of today, I'm pretty sure my mom is happy that we didn't have Chipmunk when I went to school here. And so we got to get it together. Definitely got to get it together on transportation. But here I support this resolution on technology use and screen time in schools. But I want to be clear that this has to be the baseline, and we have to move forward with much more details to be added to this resolution. Currently, according to parents, every student in PGCPS has access to a district device, and technology has become a significant part of the school day. PGCPS staff has acknowledged the need for greater balance and is now restricting Chromebook use during lunch, recess, and transitions in elementary schools. Those changes didn't happen in a vacuum. They happened because parents spoke up, and they spoke loudly to this board and to the superintendent. As school board member Amy Olivo mentioned at our Screen Time Town Hall, hosted by myself, PGCPS, Terrence Clegg, and Jamie McGonigal, we heard directly from families concerned about how much time their children spend on screens, what they are accessing, and whether the technology is supplementing good instruction or beginning to replace teacher-to-student instruction. And Prince George's County is not alone. Montgomery County has ordered a comprehensive K-8 review examining how time students spend on school-issued devices, whether that use is instructional or non-instructional, unnecessary screen time, and the effectiveness of those content filters. Fairfax County has gone even further, calling for grade-level limitations on screen time and device access, family opt-outs, and stronger safeguards. We learned in elementary school about the basic questions to understand a problem, and that's asking just these simple questions: the what, the who, the where, the why, and the how. As discussed to my colleagues here on this panel, this resolution does not quite answer those specific questions. How many hours are students actually on screens? What applications are they using on said devices? Who is monitoring them? How is the technology being used? How many schools will be studied in this study? How many students, parents, teachers, and principals will be interviewed? Is the technology developmentally appropriate by grade level? And what are the practices nationally and internationally here that we can implement here in PGCPS? I take my job very seriously as a legislator, and I told myself I was going to come down here, I was going to speak truth to power, and I was going to let you know how I feel honestly about the resolution and what we need to do as a system to make sure we're getting the answers and a roadmap we need to guide ourselves for next year's school year. And so I know that we're going to take this up in Annapolis this year. I know that for a shadow of doubt that it's going to happen. But I want PGCPS to be at the forefront. And that's why I'm here today, to urge you all to really take into consideration the details that matter to make sure that we have a roadmap that's going to help every student excel academically here at PGCPS. Thank you very much.
Gotcha. Board members, are there any discussion? Vice Chair Moss?
Yeah, first of all, I want to.
Hold on, before you go, and I do want to take the opportunity to introduce my new vice chair. This is the first time that he's had the ability to sit at this chair, so I want everybody give it up for Dr. Moss. I told him I was going to put him on front. You know, I had to.
Back to screen time. No, so first of all, I want to thank my colleague, Amy Olivo, for being the architect behind this work and putting a lot of work in crafting this resolution. It is work. I remember when I crafted my first one, and board member Boozer Strother went line by line and made edits to it. So it's hard to really pull these together in a way that all of your colleagues can be supportive of the work. And so I want to first put my support behind this work. As someone who's been a school teacher, someone who's been a middle school principal, I understand the nuances of what it takes to really build a system where kids are not spending a lot of time on screens. One of the things that PGCPS has to be super mindful of, and I don't even know if she's here tonight, but she's the biggest cheerleader for this work, is being super thoughtful around what happens to our students who are receiving interventions and who are students with disabilities. So we really have to take our time as a system to really study this. Mr. Reese, I don't know if she's in the audience, I'm gonna get in trouble for calling her name, but she's always encouraging the board to be super thoughtful around how all of our decisions impact all of our students, but in particular our students with disabilities. And so one of the things I just want to dovetail on the work that Senator Washington is talking about, as we put more details in the memo that's going to the administration around this work, one of those priorities has to be ensuring we have systems in place for students who are receiving interventions, because we have state laws that govern that, but as well as our students with disabilities. So I just want to make sure I, one, give my support to this resolution and the memo that's coming afterwards that will really be the guidance framework for the study. And then finally, before I jump off here, Chief Zuckerman, thank you for your work on this. I know you put a lot of thought into this, and so we really appreciate you hitting the ground and running. We know we have much more work to do to really get us there so kids are not spending a lot of time on screens. And if we could add something for board members too, because I'm starting to spend a lot of time on screens. But that's just my own personal discipline I need to get, but I just wanted to thank you for your work on this. Thank you, Board Member Olivo.
Thank you. If there is no objection, the special order agenda item 12.1 will be adopted. There being no objection, the consent agenda item 12.1 is adopted. Report of the chair. On behalf of the Prince George's County Board of Education, I am excited to welcome students, families, educators, and staff back to the new year. This marks a fresh start filled with new opportunities to learn, grow, and achieve. To our students, believe in yourselves, work hard, and make this year one you can be proud of. To our educators and staff, thank you for the dedication, care, and commitment you bring to the schools each day. Let's work together to make this a safe, successful, and inspiring school year for every student. At this time, I would like to take a moment of silence to honor the memory of the following PGCPS staff, family, and community members. Sidney L. Jones, uncle of Jackie Brown, Office of the Superintendent. Blaine R. Proctor, cleaner, the building services, Glenridge Elementary School. Catherine Toy, in-school suspension room monitor, Stephen Decatur Middle School. Marsha Williams, teacher, Gaywood Elementary School. Obakai C. Obey Na Yo, bus driver, Fairmount Heights. Erwin Magny, teacher, coach at Judy Hoyer. Dallas G. Pickney, warehouse manager, purchasing and supply services. Tarisha McKellar, teacher, Walker Mill Middle School. Pamela Gaines, media specialist at Frederick Douglass High School. William Clay Jr., guidance counselor, Walden Woods Elementary School. Maurice Askew, building services, night cleaner at Green Valley Instructional Center. Sherilyn Kilpatrick, data entry clerk, Skyline Elementary School. Thank you. The board informs the public of the following upcoming meetings. Please turn your attention to the screen for the list of meetings. The next business meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Thursday, September 24th, 2026, at the Sasser Administration Building, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Executive session, followed by a 7 o'clock session. Public comment. The chairman recognizes the registered speakers for their public comments. To our registered speakers, you are allotted 3 minutes to share your remarks. Speaking time may not be transferred to another individual. The board will not engage in dialogue during this portion of the meeting. Speakers are expected to refrain from using profanity or derogatory language. A warning will be issued once. Continued misconduct may result in the speaker being muted or removed from the meeting. To support a professional and courteous environment, speakers are encouraged to refer to individuals by titles such as chair, board members, superintendent, or principal, rather than by name. This evening, the board received a total of 47 public comments. Of those, 15 individuals registered to provide comments in person, and 32 comments were submitted in writing. The chair encourages those who were not able to speak to submit their comments to testimony@pgcps.org. Again, that's testimony@pgcps.org. Now we will hear from our live speakers. Our first speaker tonight is Miss Melissa, individual transportation busing. Miss Melissa Behringer.
Good evening. I am a PGCPS bus driver. I take great pride in doing my job well, transporting our students to and from school safely and on time. I stand before you tonight to share my run sheet and to bring some transparency to one of the major reasons students are arriving later than ever this school year. My run sheet shows that I am scheduled to arrive at my first school of the morning at 7:12 a.m. Now here is the problem. My next 3 schools are scheduled to start before 7:12 a.m. My second route begins with a pickup at 7:05 a.m. as if I have the ability to magically travel backward in time. My third route begins with a stop at 7:04 a.m. as if I have access to a transporter from Star Trek. And my third school begins at 7:03 a.m. The result? Every one of my morning students after my first school is late. By the time I reach my first stop for that third school, Eleanor Roosevelt High School, I am 70 minutes late, 7-0. And guess what? The bus is empty. No student is going to wait 70 minutes for a bus that will make them miss first period. And the same thing happens for my last school in the morning, 0 students. Board members, this is not an isolated problem. These run sheets like this are being issued at all 12 bus lots. This is unacceptable. This is impossible. What I don't understand is how management can hand bus drivers run sheets that are impossible to execute. How are we supposed to fulfill the mission of transportation to transport students to school safely and on time when the schedules themselves make that impossible? You have literally set us up to fail. And yet, the message we continue to hear from management is that we are all one team. When we are handed run sheets like this, it doesn't feel like we are one team. How can the Board of Education continue to accept the assurances from transportation managers that everything is going to get better when for 3 years we have seen transportation problems continue to get worse? At some point, we have to stop blaming this problem on the shortage of drivers. Someone needs to be held accountable for this mess, for the mistakes, the failures in tracking and routing, and the financial waste associated with these programs. But accountability alone is not enough. We need a solution. We need realistic schedules and realistic timeframes. We need a transportation system that works in the real world, not just on paper. And those solutions need to be clearly communicated to everyone involved: bus drivers, bus lot staff, parents, and schools. Our students deserve better. Our drivers deserve better, and the families we serve deserve a transportation system that can actually deliver what it promises. Thank you.
Tari Middleton, individual bus routing issues.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tari Middleton, and I am a proud PGCPS bus driver. I'm standing here tonight because management is trying to blame tech glitches for a crisis created by leadership. You spent $3.2 million on the Chipmunk tracking app, but on day one, that app threw error codes and left 10,000 of our students stranded on the side of the road. As drivers, we were set up to fail. Zero real training. Leadership admitted we weren't properly trained on this new routing software before it rolled out. In fact, some of our buses are not even equipped with the software. And as drivers, we have not even seen the software. Blatant routing errors. We were handed routes with missing stops, incorrect directions. In fact, there's a driver out there right now looking for the left on unknown. And missing student manifest. Safety hazards. When the app failed, families were told to just use another stop, forcing children to walk along busy roads and no sidewalks. Furious parents. We are the ones on the front lines facing the rightfully anger of the parents when we arrive hours late through no fault of our own. You want to know why you can't retain drivers? It isn't just the broken software. It is how you treat the people behind the wheel. The district boasts about small adjustments to starting pay, but you are restricting our daily schedule hours by keeping us under 8-hour threshold. You are actively cutting off our access to full retirement pensions. On top of that, you let key retention incentives sunset earlier this year. We are expected to run stressful, grueling, double-back routes to clean up this administrative mess, all while shorting our long-term and short-term compensation. Do not ask the community or the drivers for grace and patience when you pour millions into a useless app instead of investing in your workforce. We don't need million-dollar software contracts. We need functional routes and fair compensation. Thank you.
Edwin Rivera. Followed next by Ms. Phyllis Wright and Kate Walton. So we can get ready to move.
Good evening. I'm reading this statement on behalf of a router that wanted it to remain anonymous. I work at a routing room for, I have 36 years, I'm 36 years old, and I've been a router for 9 years. Of the 9 years that I've been here, I have learned 5 routing systems, not 1, but 5. The current system is geared more towards data and tracking than towards actual routing, which makes our job extremely challenging. The system guarantees the direction automatically and often with mistakes. Even when we manually enter new directions, the system often revokes back to the previous information, so none of the changes are permanent. We are also based on information schools have input into Synergy. If a school enters the wrong address, we have to use the route accordingly to the information and location to put in the system. Each router is assigned a bus lot, and some routers are assigned 2. I have 2 bus lots. I have approximately 35 schools. A route that is reviewing may have been worked on by more than 1 router. You could have 3 schools with 3 different routers handling each one. During the school phone bank, staff were brought in to assist with routing, which some of us had concerns about. There are days when the overload is so heavy that I don't even take a lunch. I forget to stop. Every year, routing timelines get shorter and shorter, while we are still expected to complete the same amount of work, often without overtime. When you continue shortening timeline and request people to rush the work cannot always be completed accordingly. The routers have raised complaint about this every year. I'm also a bus driver myself, and like Ms. Melissa said, I have 2 schools, a high school that starts at 6:33. That's what the time that my route starts. Those kids need to be in class by 7:30. I get there at 7:12. My next school starts at 7:30, which is Rosa Parks, which is miles down the road. And those kids, I don't get to those kids till about 7:38. They're missing breakfast and they're missing already whatever the beginning of the day. It's unfair that our kids are missing breakfast. How are our kids gonna be retaining information without breakfast? We don't know sometimes that some of our kids are eating or not dinner, and it's not unfair for them because of this administration. Our kids have to go through this.
Ms. Phillips Wright.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. My first priority is safety for our children. And as we see, the chipmunk doesn't work again. I'm here again. I am a proud mother of 2 beautiful daughters at Flowers High School. And this is my great niece here, and she started school here this year. Last year, I'm sorry. Didn't get a bus this year, and we're still waiting for a bus driver to pick her up. Okay, so we know that the chipmunk doesn't work. When are we going to get it right for our school system to know what works for our bus drivers? You guys work 12 months in a year. Why not let these bus drivers work 12 months in a year so they can learn each and every last one of these routes so they'll know how to pick up our children? Number 1 is safety for our kids, but if we're not picking up our children and leaving them on the side of the roads, we can't put it on them. We have to put it in yours lap because I've been coming here for the last 4 years with the same problem. When are we going to get it right? When are we going to get it right? Now, I see you all on TV talking about parents have patience. My patience have run out. My patience have run out. I have no more patience. Flowers High School, I had 8 security officers. Now we have 8. Now I had 12, now we only have 8. Can I please get 12 more security personnel over there at Flowers High School when we have 3,000 students in there with 8 security officers with 1 police? You talking about safety for our children? Make it make sense. You all want your kids safe. I want my children to be safe every morning when they walk in that building as well. So we need to do better. We all sit up here and you all make decisions for us. Let us come to the table and work with you all. Maybe we can help you all do a better system than spending all of my tax dollars on this chipmunk BS that does not work. So let's get it together. Dr. Joseph, I love you. I know you're going to do a good job, but come on, let's do a little better. I need this baby here to start school because, you know, this is my future right here. This is our future, and we need her to be picked up on time. Come on, let's get together. And then I got calls from teachers that saying they're being stepped over because you all are bringing in new teachers because they were 12 months, you took out their positions, and now they're 10 months, and they done lost their pay. How do you go down on the pay when people been there for a long time? What do you do with seniority? What's wrong with this county? Why are we not taking care of the people who are being dedicated here that wants to work with our children, who gives up everything to make sure that we have everything that we need for our kids? When are we going to get it right? And Brandon, I've been working with you for years. Thank God for you and what you do for this school system. I love the way you fight for our children. William Hall Academy, those grades have went down. Why is that principal still there? What in the world is going on with you people? What's going on? Come on, take care of our baby.
Kate Walton. Kate Walton. Okay, moving on. Caroline DeCare Golden. Apologies if I mispronounce your name. And then next is Teresa Smith, followed by Clarence Crawford. Please get in line in the back over there by the gentleman in the brown and blue suit. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Caroline DeCare Golden. I'm a current PGCPS parent, a former PGCPS teacher, and a candidate for the Board of Education District 2. I'm here today for 2 purposes: to celebrate the start of school and to amplify severe and urgent concerns about PGCPS transportation. We still have a vacancy in District 2, and so there are many voices that are not represented formally by this body. I want to start off by thanking the bus drivers, school staff, crossing guards, and PTO leaders who have gone above and beyond to support families returning to school or starting for the first time. As a former teacher, I know that every email and phone call school staff field about transportation concerns falls into the other duties as assigned bucket, and yet they pursue answers with empathy and urgency. I also have to thank the behind-the-scenes network of parents who are looking out for one another, the group chats that activate at the first stop to let you know the bus is on the way, and the committees that plan incredible back-to-school meetups. This is what is so special about our PGCPS community. However, throughout the week, I've also been told horror stories about PGCPS busing. Imagine you are a Greenbelt parent sending your kindergartner to school for the first time. You never received your bus assignment on the Chipmunk app after weeks of seeking information. On the first day of school, your child does not show up to aftercare as planned. Frantically, you track the location via your own personal tracking device and find the bus they are on. When they finally get there, you find out there was a substitute who had the wrong student roster, got lost, and your child's on the bus for over 2 hours. There are many other failures. Families in College Park sat at a bus stop waiting for a bus to Door Kennedy that never came. In Riverdale, one family was the last stop on a crowded bus that required students to sit 4 to a seat. There are local chats with parents sharing their students aren't getting home until 8 p.m., after dark, getting put on the wrong bus, and parents cannot get information about where they are. I could go on about how the Chipmunk app still doesn't work, about Door Kennedy and Goddard's 2-hour-long drop-off lines. There are news reports that are well documented, but right now families need solutions and actions, and being told to be patient is frankly dismissive and unacceptable. I also want to make clear that it is a privilege to have a car to go find your child, to be able to drop everything when a bus doesn't show to drop them off or pick them up. That is not an education system that works for every child, and that's not equity in action. These problems cost us time, money, learning, and trust. Here are some recommendations crowdsourced from District 2 families and other PGCPS stakeholders. Immediately implement a weekly Board of Education special session with the Superintendent and Director of Transportation to provide updates on the Chipmunk app functionality, pickup rates, and transportation support ticket redress and closure. Immediately implement a web-based dashboard that shows route delays and publish it on our website. Identify and activate a process to flag when there's a substitute. I also want to say, given everything said tonight, please listen to our bus drivers, center their voices in the problem solving. Thank you very much.
Teresa Smith, Clarence Crawford, followed by Dominique Lewis. Please get in line in the back.
Good evening. I maintain decorum tonight, but behind this podium is an upset parent who has lost complete faith in the Department of Transportation. I don't think you can restore it, and here is why. In 2013, you dropped my child off at the wrong stop, forcing him to use landmarks to navigate home. In 2015, my child and another scholar were left at an unassigned stop multiple times simply because the driver decided it was the last stop. In 2016, my child and several other scholars were never picked up. I only found out when my son walked back through our door at 11:50 a.m. I called in for other students that were still waiting at the stop. We expressed concern about truancy, yet the system cannot get scholars to school. Can you imagine sitting in an annual IEP meeting listening to the attendance records with no one qualifying that the absences were likely a transportation failure? Fast forward to 2024. I stood right here and shared how I had to describe to the police what my child wore to school because she never arrived to her stop. The excuse, you claim to not have had my phone number, the exact same number on record since 2013. And now, in 2026, you tell me one of my children had no route because of systems training. Are you kidding me? Where are the user guides, the user acceptance testing? Something is not adding up. Those are outcomes. Let's talk process. Any operational process requires validation and quality assurance. Please explain why our processes lack the human element to do basic verification. A simple apples to apples comparison should have stopped this failure before it reached our children. I grew up in a comparable district with competing public transit. I made it to breakfast every morning, and my grandmother never worried about my arrival home, never. I have been dealing with issues for years across 3 children with PGCPS. Hearing the issues are a broken record. How about explaining why the district forgot that we have another French immersion school on the southern end of the county? Their transportation issues weren't even acknowledged in the comms release. I pour my time and advocacy into making this district better for all scholars. I stand here for the families whose children are still stranded because it was once my lived situation. I don't need another person telling parents to be patient. Our scholars are being left on the curb, and I cannot stand by while families navigate this dysfunction alone. There are gaps in the process, and it's bigger than an app. Please fix the process. Find the human element and get our children to school and back home on time. Thank you.
Clarence Crawford, Dominique Lewis, Carrie Wheelitz.
Good evening, Chair Jackson and members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Joseph. I'm here as president of Teach 'em to Fish and our Strong Readers Prince George's Initiative. We stand at a critical point in time. PGCPS has made progress, and we need to celebrate the gains in MCAP scores. But I think we can all agree we can do better. We respectfully urge the board and PGCPS to establish attainable, aspirational literacy targets. During my time as president of the Maryland State Board of Education, we set an aspirational target in Resolution 2401 to move Maryland from 40th in the nation to 10th in the nation by 2027. Happy to report that we're making progress. Recently, Maryland was recognized as having the third fastest improvement in literacy and the fifth fastest improvement in math. And we have moved our fourth graders from 40th in the nation to 20th. I know setting the targets are risky, but it's worth it. Again, we urge the board and PGCPS to establish a clear, aspirational target, such as achieving 2/3 of third-grade children reading at or above grade level in 5 years. In doing so, we want you to know that we've got your back. Even if we don't achieve this target, we will have made significant progress for our children. We support PGCPS's emphasis on reading and math, and in these days of tight budgets, we urge you to fund what matters. We acknowledge that no system can do this alone, and that you also need the support of the community. We want you to know that as the community, we have your back, and we look forward to continuing to partner with you. Thank you.
Dominique Lewis, Carrie Wheelets, Rebecca Fleeson.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dominique Lewis, and I am the parent of students at Seabrook Elementary School. I am here because what my family has experienced is more than a first week transportation problem. It is a communication and accountability problem. For 2 consecutive days, our assigned bus failed to pick up my children at Huxley Drive and Kenzie Terrace. Both days, we were left with no communication explaining where the bus was, whether it was coming, or what we were supposed to do. This morning, I had to personally show the bus driver where our assigned stop was in order for my children to begin being picked up at the correct location. As a parent, I should not have to help correct a bus route myself just to ensure my children receive the transportation they were already assigned. I am also concerned that Seabrook Elementary School currently has only one bus servicing the entire school. When one bus is responsible for servicing an entire school, any delay, missed stop, or communication failure has the potential to affect multiple families. The district's response has focused heavily on the Chipmunk app and the challenges of the first days of school. I understand those challenges because I previously worked as a school bus driver in a larger school district. I know buses will be late, routes will have problems, and drivers may be overwhelmed with multiple runs. I am not asking PGCPS for perfection. I am asking, when something goes wrong, why can't anyone tell parents what's going on? What is happening? In the district where I previously drove, if we missed a stop, there was accountability. Dispatch could communicate with buses on the road. Schools could contact dispatch directly. A driver could be instructed to return for students, or another solution could be identified. That experience is why I know better communication is possible. I repeatedly attempted to contact transportation for help. When I was able to reach someone, the interactions were often dismissive and unhelpful in providing a solution. Parents calling because a bus never arrived or because they do not know where their children are should be met with assistance, not indifference. And this problem is bigger than students who have not been assigned transportation. My children had an assigned bus and an assigned stop and an assigned pickup time. The problem was that the bus was not coming to that stop. So I asked the board, what is the real-time communication protocol between drivers, the depot, schools, and parents when something goes wrong? Who is accountable for ensuring drivers have accurate routes and families receive accurate information? And most importantly, what concrete changes are being made so families are not experiencing these same transportation problems year after year? Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Wheelitz, Rebecca Fleeson, and Lance Escher. Please get in line in the back.
Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking as a concerned parent of 2 children at Dora Kennedy. I'm here today because transportation for the first few days of school in our county has not simply been an inconvenience. It has been a complete and utter failure. The first day of school is supposed to be a fresh start. A well-oiled transportation system gives us confidence that we are entrusting our children to an educational system that cares, is complete, is safe, is coordinated, is forward-thinking. Instead, too many families experienced utter chaos. For those of us that drive our children to Dora Kennedy, in order to beat the masses of traffic, we spend 2 to 3 hours daily in transport for a building that is 8.8 miles away from our town. Yesterday, I spent 45 minutes on Good Luck Road to move 6 car lengths. Today was faster, but that's because I arrived at school a full 2 hours before school let out. This is not sustainable. Transportation is not an extra service. Transportation is part of education. If a student cannot reliably get to and from school, that student is being denied access to their education. What makes this especially frustrating is that the first day of school happens every year. The school system has months to prepare routes, hire and train drivers, communicate, test systems, and identify problems. It's also particularly frustrating given the co-location of Dora Kennedy and Robert Goddard. The concerns about transportation were coming from parents on day one. This school is not equipped to accommodate the number of buses, cars, and students. Were there traffic studies done? Did those studies account for the fact that a large percentage of children would not have to be driven or would have to be driven due to the lack of public transportation? Was there any forethought to adding additional lanes or widening roads? Did anyone consider the safety implications of buses and cars having to ride on sidewalks to get past each other on one feeder road in and out of the school? I understand that transportation systems are complicated, but those challenges cannot become an excuse for a lack of preparation and communication. And grace, the county wants me to give them grace. Grace is defined as a courteous goodwill. I would have less of a problem extending this grace if this county did not experience this same problem each and every year, or if the county gave me grace when it was time to pay my property bill. Grace is given when unexpected problems arise. Respectfully, these problems were not unexpected, and the writing has been on the wall for years. Yet despite rising costs, our transportation budget was cut by $10 million to the current $135 million. Our children deserve better. We send our children to school because we trust that the school system is going to care for them. That trust has to be earned every day. Safe and reliable transportation should not be considered a luxury. It should be a baseline.
Rebecca Fleeson, Lance Escher, and Courtney Hirad. Forgive me, I pronounced the name wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Rebecca Fleeson. I'm the parent of 4 students at Dora Kennedy, a kindergarten student who's 5 years old, all the way through a 7th grader. My family has been part of the DKFI community since 2019, and I've been an active parent the entire time and plan to be so until 2035. My kindergartner will reach 8th grade at that point. I want to be very clear. What is happening with transportation and the co-location at the Robert Goddard campus is not simply a difficult start to a school year or something that can be fixed with more volunteers or our leadership showing up for one bus loading time. It is a foreseeable safety operational crisis that parents warned PGCPS about 2 years ago. We now have roughly 1,150 students sharing a campus accessed by a long, single-lane entrance that also serves a bus lot. Today, I personally witnessed and recorded multiple buses and cars driving onto the sidewalk that is used by students. I have an example here, and I'm happy to share it with you. And I want to be clear, those bus drivers are given an impossible task. It's 1 lane in and 1 lane out. There's no way for the buses to reach the bus lot without driving in the wrong lane. When there is a bus in the wrong lane and a car line that lasts 2.5 hours, the buses drive on the sidewalk that students walk on because their parents have paid additional money through the PTA to park at a VFW lot because PGCPS does not provide the basics: transportation, parking, safety. Meanwhile, this safety issue continues. Meanwhile, 2 of my 4 children still have no assigned morning bus. The routes assigned to my other 2 project a ride of nearly 3 hours for a 5-year-old, one way, 8 miles. When families were finally alerted on Tuesday that their kindergarten students were waiting outside the school at 6:34 p.m., PGCPS simply texted they could not provide a bus. My question is, when did you know this? I personally spoke to the Director of Transportation in early August and shared my example, which I'm sure is not the only one. He said, give me your name, give me your phone number. I'm gonna work on this. Nothing happened. He didn't follow up. I am speaking as somebody who has the ability to be here. So many parents aren't able to do that. I'm asking for 2 concrete solutions: a bus dedicated to the 46 Chevrolet DKI-5 students. Secondly, I'm asking PGCPS leadership to seriously reconsider the long-term facility plans for DKFI. The exceptional school deserves a permanent, appropriately sized home with safe road and pedestrian access for its students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Lance Escher, Courtney Herod, and Caroline Lim Espinoza.
Good evening, members of the board. I have a 7th grader and a 3rd grader at Dora Kennedy French Immersion. We love the school, and the teachers do a phenomenal job. We have been bus riders at Dora Kennedy since my oldest started in kindergarten in 2019, and this is the worst transportation situation we have seen and encountered thus far. A lot has gone wrong over recent days. I can't see our morning bus route in the app. After many calls and emails, I'm told that the bus exists and that the pickup time is at 7:27 a.m., roughly 2 hours before the bell time at Dora Kennedy, 9:25 a.m. While I do have an afternoon bus, it didn't arrive on Tuesday. My kids ended up waiting at the school until 6:20 p.m. when administrators finally called us and told us to pick them up. On Wednesday, the bus did arrive, but it dropped them off after 6:11 p.m., again, 2 hours after school dismissed at 4:10 p.m. I will acknowledge that things aren't completely awful. Our bus drivers deserve credit for improving. This afternoon, the bus not only arrived, but it did so more quickly. My kids were dropped off at 5:53 p.m., again, more than an hour and a half after school ended. That is far from ideal, but things are moving in the right direction. My plea to you is to do your part to keep pushing and improving. Things remain unworkable, especially as compared to last year when our bus route in the morning was 30 minutes and in the afternoon just over an hour. The doubling of the bus ride durations has driven many parents to abandon the bus and drive their kids to and from school. At Dora Kennedy, as others have noted, this has meant huge traffic jams with parents waiting an hour, 2 hours or more to drop off and pick up their kids. Things cannot go on this way. Parents are making sacrifices at their jobs, taking leave, working late, or literally foregoing wages to drive their kids in when they would much rather have their kids ride the bus. And the kids who stick with the bus are being punished. They're losing time with their families, time to attend extracurriculars, time to do homework, and time to sleep. The only solution to this problem is to improve planning, hiring, and funding so that we can shorten bus routes. I hope that we can all agree that a 3.5 or 4 hour daily commute is untenable. I doubt anyone sitting in front of me would agree to accept a position that would require them to commute for 3 or 4 hours every day, but you are asking that of children as young as 5 years old. Please fix this. All of these problems, including the incredible car traffic at Dora Kennedy, can be resolved by a reliable and fast bus network, one where the morning and afternoon routes are approximately 30 minutes each. That's achievable, but only if you make this a priority. Other jurisdictions do this, you can too.
Courtney Herat.
Thank you for saying my name correctly, by the way. You did say it right. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard and to speak on behalf of many who are not able to be here today. I have been a resident of Prince George's County for over 40 years and a product of Prince George's County education, having attended Capitol Heights Elementary, Kenmore Middle School, and Parkdale and High Point High Schools. For the last 13 years, I have been a proud, active Prince George's County parent, committed to my community, county, and schools. That is until this week. The transportation issues that have occurred this school year can only be described as a failure to meet basic needs of our students. Not, as we heard earlier this week, falling below expectations or technology breakdowns. I refuse to believe that the issues stem from the Chipmunk app. We have an entire Department of Transportation whose job it is to create the routes, to make sure we have adequate bus drivers, and to make sure that our students are transported safely. We cannot blame that failure on an app. That belongs here. Those of us who are not new to the school system know all too well the challenges and difficulties that occur each August and September. This was not that. As one of the largest, most affluent counties in the state, what has unfolded in the last 2 weeks is baffling at best, embarrassing, and detrimental in truth. I apologize. I had a whole 3 minutes worth of words and data and facts and personal experiences. But just tonight, in the midst of tracking my children through my own personal tracking devices on their electronics, to try to figure out, after taking a chance on the bus home this afternoon, where my children were and how late it would be until they got home. I spoke with the mom whose child also attends my child's school and bus. With tears in her eyes and overwhelmed defeat in her voice, she shared that she had a radiation appointment in the morning and didn't know how she was going to be able to ensure that she could get to it and make sure her child made it to school in the morning. She also shared with me that her middle schooler selflessly offered to stay home from school tomorrow so that she didn't have to worry about getting her radiation. As a cancer warrior myself, this was completely unacceptable to me. I vowed to her that I will be there in the morning to take her child to school so that she can attend her radiation appointment, and I will continue to do so as long as necessary. This is what we do as Dora Kennedy community, as Prince George's County community. We take care of our own. This board in this Department of Education is not taking care of our own. I have, excuse me, this is bigger than inconsistency and late arrivals. I have had to put my high schooler in a Lyft or an Uber every day this week because despite being a returning senior at Largo High School, she still has no bus route as of today. I have taken leave every day this week. I spent 5 hours on Monday, 2 in the morning and 3 in the evening, picking up and dropping off children. I have had to work from home to ensure that my children can make it to school and I can get them on time. I am lucky to have the flexibility to do so, however, many others do not. How many are making decisions between sending their children to school and keeping a job, receiving cancer treatment? Students are missing hours, days of education time simply because they cannot get to school. We are tired. Drivers, parents, teachers, administrators, volunteers, all of us. I personally have made multiple trips to this transportation office after phone calls have been met with apathy, indifference, and zero. We need to do better.
Thank you. Ms. Espinoza.
Good evening. I'm Carolyn Lem Espinosa, parent of 3 Dora Kennedy French immersion students in 8th, 4th, and 2nd. And I want to be clear tonight, what families are experiencing is not normal first week, back to school, transportation woes, and logistical disruptions. This is the worst I have seen since I have been a parent since 2018. And what is increasingly concerning to me and our community here is the lack of accountability of how we got here. These problems were foreseeable. PGCPS leadership had notice of these concerns well before the school year started and ensured us this would not be a repeat of years past. But it is. Parents were notified in writing that bus routes would be available on August 18th, 1 full week before school started. But when routes were not published, families started raising the concern about missing routes, excessive travel times, unresolved transportation issues through all available channels. Leadership heard the concerns, they knew these concerns, they established the timeline, and leadership decided to communicate and proceed and message that they were ready. So the question tonight isn't simply what went wrong. The question tonight is, what information did transportation and leadership use to make the decision to communicate this as ready? Today is August 27th, the third day of school. And this is what my transportation looks like. This is what ready looks like for my family today. No morning bus assigned, no route assigned. My 3 children do not have transportation to their school. And our family is only one example of transportation failures throughout thousands of families across and students across this county. On day 1, our afternoon bus had no assigned driver, and families weren't notified of that until approximately 6:30 by text. But as you can see here, they were supposed to be on their way home. We've heard explanation about the app, routing issues. We've heard from bus drivers. We've heard from you all that it's a bus drive shortage and first week challenges. But the app didn't decide PGCPS transportation and logistics were ready for day 1. This is a leadership decision. And our published afternoon route is scheduled to get my children home 2 hours and 55 minutes after dismissal. PGCPS told families these routes were designed, and I quote, to be safe and timely arrivals. Nearly 3 hours after dismissal is not timely transportation. And this is not a first week bus driver delay. This is the plan PGCPS leadership designed. So tonight, I am asking the board to move behind excuses and explanations and require measurable accountability. 1, publicly report how many students still lack complete transportation plans. Establish reasonable ride times and standards, and tell families who's accountable for delivering these results. We have given grace. We are asking now for accountability. Don't tell parents it's getting better, show us.
Thank you. Nicole Lamers. Nicole Lamers. Okay. Moving on to the, thank you all for your participation and comments tonight. Moving on to the report of the superintendent, and chairman recognizes Dr. Sean Joseph for the superintendent report.
Thank you. We're just waiting for the presentation to come up. Well, thank you. Thank you, Board of Education, and thank you, community. And I want to start by, thanking everybody who came to speak tonight. Your voice really does matter, and we really hear you. And as a parent of 2 children who went to school and took buses, I intimately understand the frustration that you feel when a bus, doesn't show up. I understand that intimately. And I spoke to our bus drivers at Suitland High School this summer, and I had the opportunity to remind them why their work is so important, because bus drivers carry children to hope. Because schools transform lives, and I believe that wholeheartedly, and it's one of the reasons I've been in. This marks my 30th year in education, and this was the hardest opening of my 30 years. I got the frustration. It's felt, it's understood, and you've got a commitment that we must be better and do something about it with speed. And so tonight, as I talk about the opening of our school year this year, I've titled this opening Progress, Accountability, and the Infrastructure to Accelerate, because I agree with many of the speakers that this wasn't just an app problem, it was a leadership failure, and I'll own that. See here, if we can. There we go.
Okay, so as we start this year, there are two truths I think we start with. One, we can celebrate the progress of opening this year, but we can also confront failure at the same time, simultaneously. One truth is that there was momentum coming into our school year. Across PGCPS, we've had educators who welcome students. We've opened new schools this year. We have new curriculum that's been refined, and I've been to schools and I've seen teachers executing on that curriculum, working diligently as they were excited to welcome children. And then as we moved into day 2 and day 3, we've seen signs of faster dismissals at several schools, not consistently, but across schools, we have seen some improvement from where we started 2 days ago. At the same time, there is vulnerability. Transportation failed too many families on day 1. And the failure exposed weaknesses not only in technology transition, but in staffing, in oversight, the surge capacity, and in our communication. So leadership requires us to hold both truths and act on both. So how do we continue to accelerate the academic progress we see for the children that are in our schools? But how do we hold ourselves accountable to just do better when we have not? This year we started, math is a struggle for the state. But in Prince George's County, we've seen in grades 3 through 8 math gains in our grade levels, very moderate gains, but gains moving in the right direction, outpacing state improvement. But again, I think the state and our system could be doing much better in mathematics. We opened 2 new schools, and I had the great privilege of going to Margaret Brent Elementary and Templeton Elementary, where I saw the type of school facilities that every child in Prince George's County deserves. And again, we have much work to do to ensure that children have those types of buildings, but I could appreciate that those buildings exist for those families and those communities. And again, day 1 was a tremendous challenge, and as was day 2 and 3. But again, we saw progress in terms of moving forward as it relates to some of our dismissal operations. So we see progress, and our infrastructure has to be strong enough to sustain it. So as we talk about what I observed, and I had the opportunity to start my day on the first day at Frederick Douglass High School and see the energy of a high school on a brand new football field, and then go on to Margaret Brent, and then Templeton, William Wirt, Forest Heights, Hillcrest Heights, Imagine, Andrews Public Charter School, and Robert Gray were the schools I had the opportunity to visit over the first 2 days. And what I saw, I would say I would not characterize transportation as a whole as a failure. That would be incorrect, because we have thousands of bus drivers that did get up excited to greet children and going, and we had people supporting those drivers in those buildings. So thousands of buses did reach schools and on time and deliver students safely. I also saw teachers who were prepared to begin instruction on day 1. I was particularly inspired when I was over at Forest Heights, because that's a school where we see students and teachers who are producing outcomes in terms of growth, both in reading and math, that exceed what happens not only in the county, but in the state, so much so. And I was just so intrigued there. We probably spent an hour and a half there speaking to the principal and speaking to teachers there, because I want to create case studies of what's happening in terms of quality in those schools, so it can be replicated and so we can learn from it. I had a chance to see facilities across all the schools I visited, and all of those buildings were clean and ready to welcome students.
And then I saw our new food nutrition pilots, where we have fresh food pilots that we've launched in numerous schools, and we're working to ensure that we improve the quality of food across all 200 schools, because again, kids deserve fresh fruits and vegetables and just food that they will enjoy so they can be at their best in schools. Leadership-wise, we had 33 new principals this year. That is a large number. And 16 of those principals were principals that were recruited from around the country to come help us ensure that every kid gets excellence by design every day in our schools. And we attracted some extremely strong principals this year, in addition to great candidates that we had internally that we moved up. And then as we started our new strategic plan last year, Forward by Design, I saw evidence of it actually starting on day one, which is something remarkable in a school system as large as ours, where I saw people implementing the new streamlined mathematics curriculum and had an opportunity to talk to teachers about the substantive changes and get their feedback on what they saw was happening and how they felt empowered to really help move students in a way they haven't done in previous years. So again, the opening this year for me revealed both operational vulnerability and significant organizational strength. So again, two things can occur in one moment. As we talk about day one transportation, point blank, we did not meet the standard of excellence by design every day. If I had to grade that first day in terms of the routing procedures and the timeliness of some of it, we'd have to give ourselves a D or an F if we were going to be honest with ourselves. Right, you can call it an F, that's fine. To me, both are failing. I don't accept anything under an A, and so we can call it an F, that's fine. But when we asked what happened from my analysis of going through, I saw four things here at play. And accountability begins with first understanding what's happening so we can appropriately correct it. First, I'll start with capacity. We simply have too few routing technicians. We only had one functioning scheduler, and we had a gap in senior routing oversight. So there have been some transitions in the office, and those transitions hadn't been filled, which left some challenge in terms of capacity there. Secondly, I think change management. We moved from multiple systems, using two systems last year, to just going to one. And we fully transitioned away from a familiar routing platform and that created a larger learning curve than anticipated. And then there were questions about the technology itself in terms of the usability of it. On the first day, the technology itself, we had 15,000 people simultaneously try to use it, and it exceeded the capacity. And then the app failed in the morning. And then finally, I think this is one of the biggest challenges we had, was the visibility. Our escalation and reporting systems did not surface the magnitude of the backlog that we had early enough for system-wide intervention and proactive family communication. So I kept reflecting on what is the difference between this year and last year. And the answer was, last year, I was alerted about a week in advance that we potentially would have a backlog of people getting routed. So we were able to proactively communicate that that was the case, and we encouraged families in advance to find routes and things of that nature. So there was a challenge, but because parents were informed, it was able to change behaviors, and there wasn't lots of surprise for many of our families last year. Again, wasn't a perfect year, definitely had some challenges, but it was better at least it was better reported to me than it had been the previous year.
And sometimes you don't go from, sometimes you just got to get better. Better is on the journey to perfection. But this year, we regressed. And so that's something we must fully acknowledge. So as we're moving forward, since Monday we reported that there were 10,000 students who weren't routed. And what that means, it doesn't necessarily mean that 10,000 students did not attend school. And I think that is important for our community to understand. What it did mean, though, was that there were 10,000 students in our system, and we have one of the largest bus systems in America. We strive to do a lot in our system, as we have over 28 specialty programs, and then we have our 200 schools, and we provide the transportation for all. So it's a very complicated process to route students moving through. But for students who have a local school that they go to, it's easy to pull up you put your address in, find a place to go in terms of waiting for a bus stop, even if you're not assigned to it. It's much more difficult for our families who have specialty schools. They cannot put their name in or put their address in and find a school. So I understand the complexity becomes even more difficult for our families who have specialty programs. But we had 10,000 students initially that appeared to be routed. As of yesterday, we were down to about 6,500 of those students. We've expanded capacity with using a vendor as well as internal routers to have 27 people working on getting us through this process we are right now to just get the backlog done. And the goal is by Saturday to have that backlog completed. Because again, it should have been done on day one, but recognizing it on day one and then understanding the reasons and then organizing how do we get that backlog completed. We have capacity and people began working today to do just that. So by this Saturday, that backlog should be completed so we can have that targeted route for completion. So that is the goal that we put out here. So we'll use Sunday to buffer for quality control and unresolved cases. And since yesterday, I've been getting updates 2 times a day on where we are with that progress. And I've been reporting to our board and our county. I've been reporting to our board and our county those updates so we can monitor as we're moving forward. Routing every student is just a first benchmark. It's not a finish line. So just because students are routed doesn't mean that the problem is going to be solved. So please hear me when I say, I'm not saying that transportation problems will be done and corrected by Saturday. They will not. What I'm saying is the backlog should be completed. And then we still have to continue on that progress to make sure our times and things are working through. So step 1 is simply to assign. So complete eligible student assignments and resolve the exemptions. 2, the next step that we'll move into after this Saturday is to stabilize. And that'll require us to reduce excessive ride times, refine stops, improve on-time performance, and correct route inaccuracies. Again, I've been doing this for 30 years, but I've been in administration for over 20, and I've been in 4 different districts, and I know in every large district, it takes the first month of school or so to just get things normalized and balanced. Sometimes you can do it before then, but that's been my experience. It could be different in other places, and I've been in lots of places, but it takes the first few weeks to get everything together in big, complex systems, particularly a system, again, that strives to move students around the way we do at the numbers in which we do. And then third, to strengthen. Once we have stabilized, we've got to build permanent staffing, supervision, vendor capacity, communication, and contingency systems in place. So To me, success will be defined as reliable service, not merely completing the routing file. So again, that is a step one process that should have been done, must be done, will be done by Saturday. But there's still work to do to stabilize routes and situations as we move forward. There's a larger lesson here, and some of the speakers alluded to it, and I'll just continue on that dialogue. And that lesson is, operational resilience requires sufficient capacity. One of the things that we learned from this moment, and one of the things that not just in transportation, but throughout the organization, we've got to make sure we have the capacity to effectively execute. Last year, we cut $150 million from the budget, not because we wanted to, but because we had to present a balanced budget with the resources that we had. And we prioritized not taking dollars from the classroom, which means that $150 million came from the organization. This year, we're talking about a potential $100 million if the state's $3 billion budget shortfall, is distributed across the state. So resource reduction does not explain operational failure, and I'm not saying that that was it, because as I just communicated, there were other reasons that have nothing to do with resource that got us to where we are today. But what I'm saying is we do have to acknowledge the fact that you need capacity to accelerate. And so what resources will do is reduce staffing depth, surge capacity, meaning our ability to ramp up quickly when we see that there's a problem, and the margin of error when systems are under strain is limited. Transportation, as I think deeper about this beyond transportation and thinking about the work that we have to do in the system this year, transportation is the warning light, not the whole dashboard. It's one measure of operations that I think we have to look at as we move through this year. Facilities, procurement, food and nutrition, human capital, customer service, technology, finances, transportation, all of these operational areas have threats. And we must get a handle of those threats and be clear about what we do if there's something that strains us to be able to adapt. Because as we saw at the start of this year, we're challenged. Now, we are allocating the resources necessary to address this problem because, as I started and I said, transportation brings children to hope. And so there's no expense that we should not use to make sure we get this right. And we'll go ahead and make sure we do that. But as we look at our Forward by Design plan, operational strength is what actually strengthens it, that we cannot achieve the goals, the 5 goals that we have in our new strategic plan for reading and math, special education and multilingual learners, climate and culture, college and career readiness or attendance, without operational strength. So specifically for reading and math, students must arrive on time to be able to engage in that high quality reading and math that I saw over at Forest Heights and the other schools that I visited. Specialized services depend on reliable systems for special education and multilingual learners. If we don't have the right rooms and supports and services, then our multilingual learners and special needs students will not be able to achieve the goals that have been identified in their individual education plans. In terms of culture and climate, trust is shaped by the daily experiences of families. So I heard many families here who expressed, a distrust or loss of trust or dissatisfaction. And we must work to gain that trust back if we're going to move forward as a system. College and career readiness, we need access requiring scheduling, transportation, and technology that you can't have effective college and career readiness plans if any of those infrastructures are weak. And then finally, attendance. You know, a bus that does not arrive can become a missed day of learning for students. And this week, we put out information to make sure that principals are aware that if students are absent or late because of a bus issue, that there's a code that they can use, because children should not be penalized for something that management has caused. So what must we strengthen at this moment? First and foremost, capacity. So we have approved in our current budget and plans to make sure we have 12 routing technicians. We had 8 right now, so 12 routing technicians will give 1 router for each bus lot. That's something we had not had in previous years. Also, we need to make sure we have 2 functioning schedulers. Right now, we had 1 that was gone and that was out long-term. And we want to make sure we have the appropriate schedulers that we are required to have. We need a routing supervisor. That position had been vacant, and it needs to be filled. We need to restore oversight of the routing process, because again, when that person transitioned, there was weakness in the supervisory function there. And that will be something that the Transportation Division needs to own, and we're reporting twice directly to me daily, so we can get this situation solved and we can monitor whether the progress is happening or not. As it relates to change management, we need to make sure if we bring in a product, people are appropriately trained on it, and that we manage that change, not only the use of the technology, but the change in behaviors. There's a whole change management process that should be thought about as we deal with adults dealing with change. And we need to make sure that we have readiness checks and accountability before the actual time things are due, and make sure that users are testing, we're doing our dry runs and escalating protocols before we have the actual major transitions. And as it relates to contingency, evaluate private route augmentation and temporary expert leadership where capacity is insufficient. One of the big challenges we have here, is that we try to do everything by ourselves, and we've fallen short on capacity. And I think we need to consider short-term if there are additional external capacities that can come in and take the pressure off of our shortages and some of the pressure off of all of the routes that we try to do and the times that we're trying to do it. Again, we have to investigate this. This is an expensive proposition, but if we're committed to ensuring the transportation that we're currently doing, we simply need more capacity, and we've got to figure out how to fund it and prioritize it, because that becomes a system-wide priority. And then finally, and most importantly, transparency. We need to make sure we're communicating directly to families, to the board, and holding ourselves accountable to doing what we said we're going to do. So moving forward, it's accountability plus investment plus design. So the day one challenge, I want to be clear. I acknowledge we did not get it right on day one, and I'm sorry for that. We apologize, and we're fixing it. And I will fully take personal responsibility for that outcome. Secondly, we must protect our mission. We must identify the operational capacity required to execute on this new vision that we're calling Forward by Design. And lastly, we have to accelerate the future. We have to use this moment to strengthen the system, reduce variance, and build resilience across Prince George's County Public Schools. So we will fix where we have failed. We will strengthen what was fragile. And we will build operational capacity for our students and our families because you simply deserve the best. And Board Chair Jackson, that concludes my opening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. And I really appreciate us as a school system spending significant time on this transportation situation to kind of discuss, next steps and, solutions. Given the time, it being 8:59, if there's no objection, we humbly request that we postpone the presentation for the MCAP score stuff until our next board meeting.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Moving along to 18.0, the chairman recognizes Dr. Joseph for the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Board Chair Jackson. I recommend that the board accept consent or approve consent agenda items 18.1 through 18.7.
Board members, would you like to pull any of the agenda items for the discussion under general orders? Note that pulling an item does not denote a no. It indicates a desire to discuss further. If there is no objection, the consent agenda items 18.1 through 18.7 will be adopted. Moving on to new business. Board Chair recognizes Dr. Felton Moss.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier, I added a new item to the agenda that was not on the agenda related to the Chipmunk app. And I, for one, brought this here in line and in support with, I believe, with what some of our superintendent is currently doing in terms of auditing what has happened with the situation as it relates to our transportation issue. What the board has is an oversight and a fiduciary responsibility, and we do that most certainly through contracting and holding the superintendent accountable. In this particular instance, I think it's important that we acknowledge that Prince George's County Public Schools committed about $3.2 million to implement the Chipmunk transportation application after decades of trying to find the right app. And it is obvious that we may not just be right there yet in terms of finding the right application. And I do want to acknowledge to those who are in the room that perhaps may not understand, Chipmunk is now being used for both our routing function and our tracking function, whereas in the past, these were two separate functions that were functioning different apps. And so instead of getting what we wanted from this app initially, we faced persistent system outages, inaccurate location data, and quite frankly, unacceptable operational breakdowns. And so when you have, and we expect to have almost 80,000 children who are on this app, and we've had 17,000 as of now, who are really standing at bus stops that are waiting and are left in the dark, trying to figure out where their buses are. It is important that this board assumes its fiduciary responsibility, its contracting responsibility, and begin a process. So I'm coming before my colleagues to initiate a formal review and an audit, even if that includes revocation of the Chipmunk transportation contract. What we have provided here in concert, colleagues, you did not have this in advance of the meeting because this was not written prior to the meeting, but what I have done is provided you with a copy in your emails, and I will read it for the public's acknowledgement. But I believe the Chipmunk folks might be here, and so if it's the pleasure of the chair, they can certainly speak, but I'm happy to read the motion first, or if you want them to speak first.
Yeah, I think we should like the Chipmunk Company and representative to come to the podium. And if you will, just give a brief, update, background of, what happened, what's going on, and what are we going to do to fix it?
First off, I want to apologize to the community at PGCPS. We did not provide the service that we hold ourselves to, and we are fully committed to supporting the PGCPS community and doing whatever we need to do to provide that service. I'm going to leave it at that for now. I want to take this opportunity again to apologize to the community. We are all hands on deck, and you have the commitment from myself and our whole organization that we will do what it takes to get it right for this community. That is my commitment. I take it very seriously, and so does our entire organization. Again, apologies for the inconveniences that it's caused you in the first week of school. And I will reiterate, this is all hands on deck at our company to make sure that we get this right for every single person in the PGCPS community. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open up to my board members if they have any questions, but I do want you just to explain a little bit about the challenges that we faced, and also the solution that you're going to do to move forward, implement to move forward.
Absolutely. There are two distinct things to talk about. One is the technical stability of the application, which is on Tuesday morning, there was an outage of the application. As was mentioned earlier, that happened because more than an expected volume of users accessed the app, and we were not adequately prepared for that. And that is on us. We reacted as quickly as possible, immediately, and worked hard across our entire team to get the application back up and ensure that it is accessible by the community. The application has been accessible since then. That is the first bucket, which is technical stability. The second bucket is what the application is actually showing. And so we have heard statements like the app is not working, and we hear this very often. And when we ask the question, help us understand what that means, what are you seeing? And many times, folks say, well, it says the bus is not reporting. And that's probably, a lot of you have experienced that. Or the bus is too far to report an ETA. Those are data issues that we are also working on to resolve. When the application says the bus is not reporting, it's not that the application is not working. In fact, it is working, and that is why it is saying that. That is a piece of information that it is providing. If the application was not working as Tuesday morning, it would not provide any information. The fact that it says the bus is not reporting is a piece of information, and what that tells us is that the bus that a student was supposed to be on, that bus likely got substituted, and so that student is no longer on the bus that it was supposed to be on. And so there are some data situations that we're working on rectifying, but that is the second category of issues, which is the data coming into the application has to be sound for it to present the right information. And Dr. Moss, I see you looking towards me. I'm happy to provide more details on that if that doesn't make sense. I'm trying to remain as high level as possible, but please feel free to pick at what I'm saying if it doesn't make sense.
I appreciate you acknowledging me. I have no more confidence in this than I did when you started. I've got a question for you. When you tested Tuesday, or before Tuesday, did you know how many students attend Prince George's County Public Schools? And did you know how many would ride the bus or potentially ride the bus in Prince George's County Public Schools? If so, I would assume, right, unless we have a different set of assumptions. And clearly we do, because you said the app worked and it didn't. Even if it doesn't give you information, you said it still works, which is mind-boggling to me, that if it's not giving you information, it's still working. That's just not possible. So the question for me is, did you know how many students would potentially ride the bus in Prince George's County, and did you test your app in such a way that if those students actually decided to ride that bus that morning, the app would not crash? I know what happened. I'm just curious if you tested it out before it happened.
We accounted for the number of subscribers and what we estimated the number of subscribers to be. But we missed the mark on testing for the entire population. And I will take full responsibility.
Should we expect you to miss the mark the rest of the year?
Absolutely not.
I'm finished. I'm good. Thank you.
Any more questions, board member? Okay.
Hello again. I'm the student member of the Board of Education, so I also attend school right now. I'm the only board member who's in school right now, and I have been affected by the bus situation. Now, my question is, if this were to happen, I mean, Dr. Moss, my vice chair, just asked if you're going to miss the mark for the rest of the year. Now, if you were to continue this with you, he just submitted a motion, how can we be 100% sure that all this stuff that you did during the first week, my brother's not going to end up at his bus stop again, waiting 2 hours for the bus?
So there are when we're talking about the application, there are certain things that we can your particular example on this, your brother not being at the bus stop for 2 hours, that is something that we can work with your with the routing team and the transportation team on. To provide the right guidance on how to use the system to ensure that that doesn't happen. The function of the application primarily is to track the bus and to have visibility on the bus. That is the function of the application. And so to answer your question specifically, that is more of us working with the transportation team and the routing team to ensure that the routes are created in a way that the wait times are not as long. And the situation starts to get more complex in a world where you do have call-outs and you have a driver shortage and so on, where there are double backs and folks talked about it, and there's a lot of strain on them, on the school bus drivers. And so that's what results in some of the delays. But I'm not the best positioned person to talk about the actual school bus delay, given we're running the application, not the actual school buses themselves.
Could you at least just apologize to the Dora Kennedy parents who have who have, your app completely failed on them. You could at least just give them an apology.
I apologize to the Dora Kennedy parents. I apologize to every family in the PGCPS community.
Thank you.
And my commitment and vow is that we will do anything and everything we need to do to ensure we get this right, and that's what it is.
So I do want to jump in there and say, yeah, we appreciate that you vow to do anything and everything right. So I think that Prince George's County deserves a refund for failure to execute. And so I don't know how we can prorate it or whatever, but I think that this whole month should be free for us. Until you guys get the app squared away and get everything focused and we're executing at a high level, I think y'all should pay us for the mishap. So I think, so you said you're willing to do anything and everything. Are you prepared to pay us back for your mishaps? You said you're willing to do anything.
I'm not prepared to comment on that right now, but.
Thank you. Moving to the next question. So, what is that? Board Member Boozer Struthers.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Chair Jackson. So my one thing that I haven't heard about yet that to me is a gap in why things are going the way they are is my understanding there should be tablets on these buses that the bus drivers can merge. Once they're assigned new routes, they could instantly become that new route. You could see it in the app. You could, in real time. It was my understanding that principals had a dashboard that they could track all this. So is part of this the fact that all the technology phases aren't complete? Like once everyone is routed, obviously has to happen. But once that happens, is there a missing link here that just hasn't been verbalized by anyone yet? Because that was as a board member, of course, I had early previews of this. This was explained to me, and I don't think I'm seeing it yet.
The PGCPS buses, to answer your question directly, we are still implementing certain parts of the platform. So yes, you are correct. And this was part of the phased rollout of implementing the platform. And so the PGCPS buses now are outfitted. They have tablets, but we have not gone yet through training the school bus drivers and that process that will happen through the transportation department. And so, yes, you're right. There are still certain parts of the implementation that are not fully complete, and we're still going through that entire implementation process.
Thank you.
Board Member Olivo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm certainly extremely concerned about the fact that the Chipmunk app was down on Tuesday at a time when we would have expected in the morning every user to be online checking for their bus. You're going to check them in the morning, and check it again in the afternoon. And so I'm extremely concerned about that. I also want to say if we, as a board or administration, lay the blame for this week's transportation failures solely at the feet of an app, then we will be in this same exact situation again. There were multiple levels of failure, as have been outlined by our speakers, by our superintendent. This included not enough staff. This included not enough training. This included lack of communication and talking to our bus drivers who are literally on the ground with these insane routes. Ms. Behringer made the comment, and I wrote it down. She said, we need routes that work in the real world and not just on paper, but the routes she shared with us wouldn't have even worked on paper. So we cannot just blame this on the app, and I couldn't agree more. There are problems with the app that we have to figure out, and we need to be made whole for the issues that happened on Tuesday morning. But as a board and as a staff, we also need to make sure that we're not just saying, oh, this is the easy thing, let's blame it on the app and then everything will be taken care of, because that is absolutely not the case. Thank you.
Dr. Anderful?
Thank you, Chair Jackson. Board Member Olivo, you took the words straight out of my mouth. And so I'm glad that there are board members that share the same sentiments that I do. I think most know that I'm both a parent and a board member. I have 2 elementary school students in PGCPS. And I have to agree with you, Board Member Olivo, this is not just an app issue. It is not. We cannot put the sole blame on you. And so while I appreciate you coming here this evening and standing here and doing your best to answer questions, there's a lot more at play here, right? We've heard it from parents tonight. We've heard it from our bus drivers tonight. We've even heard it from members of our cabinet here tonight. It is an accountability issue. It is a leadership issue. It is an infrastructure issue. It is a communication issue. The list goes on and on. And so we cannot solely put it on Chipmunk. Is Chipmunk an issue? Oh, for sure, 1,000%. We know that, right? As a parent, my child didn't have a route either. I am fortunate enough to have had the opportunity. I think I had a parent here, maybe the Seabrook Elementary parent, who said that she went to the school. I went to my child's school. I spoke to the bus drivers directly. I spoke to everyone to ensure that my child got on the correct bus because there was nothing in the app. Right? And so if that's my experience, and also knowing the experiences of many parents, and sitting here currently being sticky and still hot from my experience at the Robert Goddard Dora Kennedy lot this afternoon, completely unacceptable. So we have to be sure that we are looking at this holistically and that we are thinking about all the components at play, because it is significantly more than just an app issue. And so we must think about how we are going to ensure there is accountability, that accountability then translates to action, and then there is immediate action around infrastructure, ensuring that this does not happen again.
Dr. Moss?
Oh, am I just reading the motion again? Yeah, so first of all, thank you all of my colleagues for all of your comments. I couldn't agree with you more that there are a number of things at play here. What our responsibility as a board and where we have our first linchpin in terms of accountability is around our contracting and how we hold our leadership accountable. And so this motion is directly focused on ensuring we initiate a formal review and an audit to include revocation if necessary of the Chipmunk transportation contract. It says, whereas the Prince George's County Public Schools entered into a contract valued at approximately $3.2 million for the Chipmunk mobile application and associated routing tracking systems, whereas the operational purpose of this software is to provide accurate real-time bus tracking, route optimization, and timely notification for approximately 80,000 PGCPS students who rely on district transportation daily, and whereas the Chipmunk application has failed to perform the contracted specifications, resulting in persistent tracking failures, inaccurate location data, and widespread disruption for families and transportation operators. Whereas the failure of this system compromises administrative oversight, parent communication, and student safety across the district. Whereas the Board of Education owes a fiduciary and operational duty to ensure vendor accountability and the proper stewardship of taxpayer funds. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Prince George's County hereby directs the superintendent, alongside the Department of Internal Audit, to immediately initiate a comprehensive contract review and operational audit of the $3.2 million Chipmunk app and contract. Be it further resolved that the audit and review shall encompass the following deliverables: technical compliance, evaluation of vendor deliverables, uptime logs, GPS accuracy and functional performance against a contractual scope of work, financial oversight, account of all funds dispersed to date, outstanding balances and contractual penalty options or liquidated damages available for service failure, operational impact, assessment of tracking and routing, reliability across all 80,000 student transportation routes, contingency planning, and immediate mitigation strategy to provide accurate bus information to families while the vendor review is underway. So be it further resolved that the district shall withhold any non-essential supplemental payments or optional contract extensions pending the conclusion of this review, and be it further resolved that the findings of this review, along with recommendations regarding cure notices, contract modification, or contract termination, be delivered in a formal report to the Board of Education within 30 calendar days of the adoption of this motion.
Thank you. If there is no objection, the motion will be adopted. I'm sorry. Okay, Board Member Brown.
Just really quickly, I didn't know if we were going to get additional stakeholder feedback or if the superintendent and his team would use the stakeholder feedback. And what I mean by that is, I know you yourself and Amy had a task force who went over our budget at one point, and so I think it will be wise also for them to have PCAC involvement or even DIAB involvement. I'm always going to, of course, push parents and families to be involved in this. If we can do that, that would be great. If we can't, I understand, but I do want to make sure that we get stakeholder feedback from the families, especially the ones that are here as well. Thank you.
I will accept the friendly amendment to the motion wherein resolution. This is being tasked with the superintendent and internal audit. They would need to let us know if that methodology is possible under this type of review. But I'm happy to do it, but I don't know if this type of review could include stakeholder engagement beyond what we already know about the failures of the app. They would have to let, I'm going to ask internal audit to let me know if they can include that in a 30-day review of a contract.
Good evening. Can you hear me? I don't know. I'm Dina Thorpe, the Director of Internal Audit here at PGCPS. Currently, there's absolutely a capacity issue. We're currently in the throes of an MSDE required grade change validity audit that is due to MSDE by October 1st. 30 days is not feasible. We could work with you on a timeline.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Our parliamentarian requests that you succinctly articulate the amendment, please.
Sure. I'd like to pose an amendment that we get additional stakeholder feedback to the audit regarding Chipmunk and the operations for transportation.
Thank you. If there is no objection, we will accept Dr. Moss's motion with the friendly amendment to add stakeholder feedback to the audit. No objection? Okay, motion is adopted. And before we close out, did want to acknowledge a point with inside of the agenda that I did get some feedback for. So I want to briefly acknowledge our opening prayer. As a reminder, our board guidelines calls for inclusive prayer. We respect all faiths and belief systems and want to remain inclusive in everything we do moving forward. Thank you all for joining us for tonight's meeting. To our online viewers, thank you for watching. There being no further business, the time is now 9:28, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.